Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 7 of Call Courses, and we will be present our material about finding and evaluating call researches. But first, let me introduce our group member. We are Group 7, and the first one is Rio Rahmat Alam, myself, Muhammad Fikri Fajrullah as a moderator. Next, Muhammad Ihsan, Muhammad Alfian Abdullah, and the last one is Ferrell Renner Xavier. Okay, to efficient time, let's get to the topic. Identifying researches. The first step in evaluating a call research is to identify what type of research it is. This may seem obvious, but it is important to distinguish between different types of researches. Bisa dilihat di PPT itu ada 5 researches. Yang pertama, call courseware. This is software that is specifically designed for language learning. It might include interactive exercise, games, simulation, and other activities. Second, online materials for teachers. This include websites, blogs, and other research that provide teachers with information and ideas on how to use call in their classroom. Next, online material for students. This include website, apps, and other resources that students can use to learn a language independently or as part of the classroom course. Next, research for connect teacher and students. This includes online forum, chat room, and other tools that allow teacher and students to communicate and collaborate online. Of these 5, once you have identified the type of researches you have interest in, you can start to evaluate it. The next, environment. When evaluating call research, it is important to consider the environment in which they will be used. This includes factors such as the type of hardware and software that is available, the number of students who will be using the research at the same time, the physical layout of the classroom or computer lab, and the level of teacher training and support. Okay, so next, mobile environment. Mobile devices such as smartphones and tablets are becoming increasingly popular for language learning. When evaluating call research for mobile device, it is important to consider the following factor. So there is 4 factors in our topic this time. The first one is compatibility. So what is compatibility? Is it research compatible with the mobile device that your student using? Usability. Is the research easy to use on a mobile device? Connectivity. Does the research require an internet connection or it can be used offline? And the last one is cost. Is the research free or paid? If it's paid, is it affordable for your student?
Okay, the next material is evaluating courseware, including apps. The evaluation component of this chapter begins by looking at the subfield of tutorial call from the perspective of both of the end user, teacher, and student. It introduces the term courseware, which refers to software including mobile apps used to support deliberate language learning. In practice, courseware has been used to refer to everything from complete software package that can be used without a teacher to software that is just a part of language learning course and sometimes a minor or optional supplementary part. The next is framework fundamentals. The 3 modules in figure 2, the picture, development, evaluation, and implementation, share core components inspired by Richards and Roger. In each case, their original components are adapted, interpreted, and supplemented to include the reality of computer as the mediator between the teacher, developer, the materials, and the learner. Each module can impact on others over time, as when information from evaluation and implementation is returned to developers for updates, patches, or consideration in later version of the product.
Okay, for the next material is evaluation module. The evaluation module is a systematic framework or set of procedures used to assess and select digital language learning materials effectively. It helps educators and instructional designers make informed decisions about which call resource to use in language teaching Evaluation involves three kinds of consideration. There is operational description, learner fit, and teacher fit. The evaluation flow begins with understanding what the courseware actually does before attempting to judge it. The operational description. This essentially focuses on the procedure level element, the units, activities, and interactional sequences of the program. The design elements essentially can be subsumed under the label learner fit. That is, based on the information from the operational description, you are looking to see how well the design element of language difficulty, program content, etc. fit the student we are evaluating for. The approach element, in this case approach-based evaluation criteria, can be subsumed under the label teacher fit. Broadly, what does the software appears to represent in terms of assumption about what language is and how language is learned, and how compatible are such assumptions with those of teacher doing the evaluation. More generally, what kind of teaching is the software likely to be doing? Ultimately, evaluation consists of getting a clear understanding of what the software actually has in the way of material and interaction, and then judging how closely it fits with the learner's need. Next is extending the model to other resources. Extending the model to other resources refers to the practice of applying a successful evaluation framework or approaches to a broader range of digital language learning materials. This extension aims to maintain consistency in assessment criteria and decision-making process while considering a wider variety of resources. These are some detailed explanations about extending the model to other resources. 1. Initial evaluation model. Start with an established and well-defined evaluation model or framework for core resources. This model includes criteria and procedures for assessing and suitability and quality of digital language learning material. 2. Scope expansion. To extend the model, broaden its scope to encompass a more diverse set of core resources. This can include different types of software, apps, website, or platform designed for language learning. 3. Adaptation of criteria. While the core evaluation criteria from the initial model may still be applicable, it's essential to adapt or expand them as needed to accommodate the characteristics and unique features of the new resources. Consider criteria such as resources type, user interaction, and accessibility. 4. Documentation and guidance. Provide clear documentation and guidelines on how to apply the extended model to different resources type. This ensures consistency in evaluation practices among educators or evaluators. 5. Training and support. Offer training and support to those responsible for evaluating core resources using the extended model. Ensure that they understand the adapted criteria and evaluation procedure for different resources types. 6. Pilot testing. Consider conducting pilot tests to validate the extended model with small selection of diverse core resources. This allows for refinements based on real-world experience. 7. Feedback mechanism. Incorporate feedback mechanism into the extended model. Encourage users to provide input and suggestion for improvement based on their experiences with the evaluated resources. 8. Continuous environment. Similar to the evaluation of individual resources, apply a feedback driven approach to the extended model itself, continuously update and refine the model to stay current with evolving core technologies and practices. 9. Scalability. Ensure that the extended model can scale effectively to handle a growing number of different core resources as they become available. And the last 10. Reporting and decision making. Use the extended model evaluating result to make informed decisions about which core resource to adopt or recommend for specific language learning context. Report finding to stakeholders.
Alternative development and implementation consideration refers to the process of evaluating and deciding on different options or approaches when developing the implementing a project, solution, or strategy. This involves considering various alternatives and making informed decision based on certain factors and criteria. Here is each part. The first one is alternative. An alternative is a different option or choice that can be considered as an alternative course of action when working on a project or solving problem. There are often multiple ways to achieve a goal or address an issue. These different approaches or alternatives can vary in terms of technology, methodology, design, or any other relevant aspect. Next is development. Development in this context refers to the process of creating or building the chosen solution or project. It includes all the activities, steps, and tasks involved in bringing an idea or concept to life. This phase encompasses planning, designing, coding, testing, and iterating on the solution to make functional and effective. Next is implementation. Implementation involves putting the developed solution or plan into action. It's the phase where you take the concept or prototype and deploy it in real world environment. This can include deploying software, launching a product, executing or business strategy, or implementing a policy. And the last one is consideration. Consideration in this context refers to the careful thought and analysis given to each alternative before making a decision. It involves weighing the pros and cons, assessing risk, evaluation, cost, and benefits, and considering various factors that can impact the success of the chosen alternative.
Okay, and next is resources for evaluation. Besides the evaluation framework presented here, it is common to see evaluation checklists or other procedures. Here are a few examples. First is Calico's Learning Technology Review Guidelines for Apps and Online Learning. And second is using software in the adult ESL classroom. Third is a place to start in selecting software. 4 is ICT for LT evaluation form. 5 is for mobile learning, and the last is language learning app review form. Before I continue, in this slide we are already provided the resources itself, these links, and the next is suggested activity. So visit the Calico website at the provided links. The reviews can be found by issue in the archive, but many can also be located using the search term software review on the journal site. Find an interesting looking piece of software and read the review. And nothing. First is what you can learn from it, and the second, any questions that arise that might help inform your own evaluation process.
Okay, so what are the conclusion of this topic? So the author emphasized the importance of carefully evaluating core research before using them in the classroom. He also provides a number of tips for evaluating core researches, such as trying out the research yourself, reading review, and asking your students for feedback. Hubert concludes by stating that the best core researches are those that are pedagogically sound, technically well designed, authentic, engaging, and appropriate for the age, level, and learning style of the students. We also emphasize the importance of considering the mobile environment when evaluating call researches. Hubert also highlight the following points in the conclusion of chapter 2. The field of call is constantly evolving, so it is important to stay up to date on the latest development. Next, there is no one-size-fits-all approach to evaluating call researches. The best approach is to consider your own teaching philosophy and the needs of your student. Next point, it is important to be critical of call researches and to evaluate them carefully before using them in the classroom. By following Hubert's advice, English teachers can choose call researches that are effective, engaging, and appropriate for their students.